Okay, this is Edcamp Home 2.0. This session is for Google Apps for Education in the classroom. My name is Ryan Archer. I'm moderating. I've had Google Apps for Education in my classroom for about a year, just a little over a year now. I'm a science teacher. I used it for science labs and for collaboration. I have since left the classroom. I'm now an educational technology teacher on special assignment, so helping other teachers to use Google Apps for Education in their classrooms. And I guess let's move. In my screen, I have Stacy next. So Stacy, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Stacy Lovedahl, and I teach 7th and 8th grade science in North Carolina. And we are a Google Apps for Education district, but I'm not sure how many other schools are doing it. IoT school, so I think I have every single device in my classroom that you could possibly have, which is interesting and fun, and I'm just looking for ways to use Google Apps in, for collaboration in science, for labs, for writing, all that kind of thing.
Great. Okay, next on my change screens. My is Ryan, the other Ryan.
Hey, I'm Ryan. I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. I don't have my bottom third up yet, but I'll do that in a minute. I'm a one-to-one with Chromebook school. I was in the session with Ryan last time. I thought we'd hang out and keep that connection going. We've been a Google Apps school for 6 years, so we're kind of really entrenched in it right now, so it's pretty fun.
And next I have Nikki. Nikki was dying to get in the session, so I'm so glad that she's here, but she's muted right now. There you go.
I need it right now. We are a GAFE school, but I don't think any of our teachers realize that we are, because we're using iPads this year. We went one-to-one iPads, and when I mention our school Google account, I get that deer in the headlight look. So what's going to happen next year is we're replacing all our iPads with Chromebooks, and our teachers are going to have to know what their Google account is, and so I need to start getting them ready for using it, and I don't have a Chromebook, so I need to know more and about what are the basic must-knows. Besides Google Drive, knowing how to use Google Drive, what else are the basic extensions and apps that I must introduce my teachers to before they hit summer and start planning for using Chromebooks in the classroom?
Perfect. That's a lot. You've got a lot going on. Megan, I have you next. I have you on there twice, but you're there.
I am here. We are, sort of like someone mentioned earlier, we are a Google Apps school, our whole district actually. I'm not sure that my campus actually realizes that, so I would say we have limited implementation. So just thinking about ways that we could make staff more familiar with that and utilize that better.
Great. I think that sounds like a common thing. We have it, but not all the teachers know about it yet.
Yeah.
Misty, you just came back on. Are you able to talk? Can we hear you? So you're having problems. Nope, she's in and out. Okay, let's go to is it Kirsten or? Yeah, it's Kirsten, I think. She's muted. Oh, there you go.
It's Kirsten.
Kirsten. I figured I'd get it wrong either way.
That's okay. I answered everything. So, I'm an instructional technology coach. I coach one middle school and 4 elementary schools. Rather large district. We are a Google Apps for Education district, but like many of you, most of the teachers are not aware of it, and so implementation is limited. I'm trying to get the word out. We are using the sites with Google to build the kids' portfolios.
Oh, great. That's awesome. Okay, and then, oh man, is it Arafeli?
Yes, that's me. You got it just about perfect. So I'm actually in Australia, so it's just after 5:30 in the morning here. I work in an adult education and alternative education environment for secondary students, and I started using Google Apps for Education last year. I guess I'm ready to move from the approach from I guess a teacher-centered approach where Google apps make it easy to manage certain things, looking more towards a student-centered approach as to how to make learning more fun, interesting, exciting for students.
Great. That's awesome. And then Kathy. Looks like Kathy is still muted. Misty, were you able to get connected? Okay, I guess we'll just go. So I know most of you are here. Like we just went through everyone. It sounds like everyone has Google Apps for Education. As far as I have used it, it's been just for Drive and Sites. I guess Sites is probably part of Drive. Like I said, I was a science teacher. I used it for labs. I would send out my labs. Kids would collaborate, do the lab together, send it back to me. I would grade it. I'd put comments on it. I never worked with the voice comments. I've heard great things about it, but I never did that. And so it really can take over your classroom, especially if you're a one-to-one environment. If you're not a one-to-one environment, I'm sure it's much more difficult. So if you want to just go ahead and jump in, ask questions, we can kind of just go around the group and tell each other how we're using it and what the best resources are for each other.
I have used the Google Sites with teachers who are doing PBLs and building the PBL from beginning to end, the process, so that when they get ready to present it to their authentic audience, they can present the PBL as a one-link site with all the kids' products from the PBLs that they've done, and that's really been eye-opening. And teachers, when they see how they can utilize it like that through Sites, they're starting to use the other things. So that seems to be an entry point for me.
That's great. I forgot, somewhere in the middle, maybe it was Megan, someone had the devices, or they were just getting into Google Apps, and so they weren't sure where the best place to start was. I would say the best place to start for me was Google Docs. It's real simple. And I think most of the kids know what they're doing on it already.
Right, I think that was me. We also just introduced a group of our teachers to Doctopus and Gubrick. We have a first-year teacher who also graduated from our high school who came in and just started using Doctopus and Gubrick, and it is a godsend. The teachers, even our oldest teachers teaching there, were shocked and amazed and were like, I have to learn how to do this. So I would say definitely that's something I'm going to show all my teachers before the summer starts so that they'll be ready for it.
And I would throw out that if you're using Doctopus and Gubrick already, that's advanced. I mean, those teachers are really ahead of the game because we've had it for a year, and we introduced it to our one-to-one teachers. We have a cohort of one-to-one inquiry-based learning teachers, and the high school, middle school teachers, it blew them away. They left angry. The responses to the training that day were not positive, so they did not like it. So if you guys are using it, that's awesome. You have some advanced teachers who are willing to learn. That's great.
Right, and I hope it's okay. I'm making a shared Google Drive document so that we can put our ideas that we're talking about here and be able to refer back to those at any time. Does everyone know how to get to that Google Drive shared document?
No.
And say, if you don't, it looks like you put a post over there on the chat. If you don't know where the chat is, it's in the upper left. There's like two little thought bubbles, not thought bubbles, I guess text frames. Click on that, the group chat will show up on the right, and then Nikki put a link in there.
I will put a link in there, but you can also go to the left-hand corner, click on your Google Drive symbol, and then click on the little blue with white line icon, and that will get you right into the shared notes. And this is where you're able to then collaboratively work on a document together, and it's really great. Our teachers love using notes like that as well. shared notes. One thing I would show your teachers is if you aren't sure if you are familiar with the revision history in Google. It is fabulous for group work, knowing who's done the lion's share of group work.
And if anything goes wrong, it's a great place to find out who did it.
Right. Or if they delete all your stuff, you just go into revision history and go back to when it wasn't all deleted.
Now, see, Nikki, you were dying to get in here, but it sounds like you know a lot of stuff already. You're in charge of teaching teachers. It sounds like. Is that what you're looking forward to this summer?
Right, right. I'm the high school librarian, but we're also in charge of PD and leadership. So, you know, I know about a few things, but I'm wondering if I'm missing some really important things that maybe are specific subject-based, because our teachers have gotten used to the apps they have on the iPad. And how am I going to replace those apps with what Google has to offer, what the Google apps and extensions have to offer?
Ryan's on here too. He has implementation already, but I would say that, you know, it sounds like you're going to get them ready for the summer to practice over the summer. And I think if they find apps and extensions that they want, if they're using Chromebooks, you can put them on the Chromebooks, and that makes it much easier for them to get to. But it's a matter, you know, it seems to me like I talked to a lot of librarians recently. It seems like their role is really changing from books to digital everything. And I mean, it seems like, oh, you're a librarian, so you can do all of this stuff. So I applaud you for learning all this. But I think a lot of the subject-specific stuff, teachers are going to have to kind of figure out what they want, what they like, and then ask the powers that be to put that on their Chromebooks if they have Chromebooks.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah, go ahead, Ryan.
I just threw those 2 documents from the last session back in. One is the apps and extensions that we've found useful thus far in our rollout. It's an incomplete list, but it's at least, you know, it's a place to start, and I've kind of got it broken up by subject areas. You could see if you can go on that link. If it's not working, let me know. But and then the other doc is I've used Google Forms to survey our faculty and staff to ask them what are they doing with the Chromebooks, and you know, it's anything from, I had one teacher say nothing, and and I've had some teachers go from, you know, their digital textbooks to docs and just poll everywhere, things like that. So it's a good starting place, almost like a springboard to get some ideas and maybe a little inspiration to kind of kickstart thinking. You know, because like most of us, we've never taught or learned in this environment, and I think it's a good place to start. But again, an incomplete list, but you know, it's a growing process nonetheless.
Well, and I think it's the same thing with, you know, with iPads. When iPads first came out, everyone wanted to throw on as many apps as they could, but you know, you didn't use them all. And so until you figure out what apps you want and what apps are going to be useful in your classroom, it's just a hodgepodge of stuff. We want to know how to best use it.
Right, and so that's what I'm looking for, because our teachers, you know, we push the SAMR model at my school, moving beyond substitution of paper and pencil to just taking notes on whatever device you're using. And so my thing is, I'm looking for those apps, again, within the Chrome store that will help with that. You see a lot of infographics that show you what to do with Apple apps for the SAMR model, but I haven't seen so much with the Chrome apps and extensions.
Well, that sounds like another great thing for you to work on.
I actually have found an infographic that talks about ideas on how to use Google Apps. I've got it somewhere on my Pinterest board. I'll hunt it down and put a link in the chat. So it just helps people just to think about some of the possibilities with Google Apps rather than just writing a document or creating a presentation and that sort of thing. So I'll find that and pop it on there.
Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Kathy, I think it was you. I apologize because I've been
Oh,
kind of
that's
jumping
okay.
back and forth trying to get people in. I think you were saying that you guys were using sites so as a student portfolio. Is that working well?
That wasn't me, but I do use sites as a that I have my website for students to access and for parents to access. It is something that is a goal for students to all have their own site used as a portfolio, but I think that was someone else that mentioned that.
That was me, Kirsten.
Oh, here's okay. So I've only used sites one time. We created a site for like teacher PD type stuff, and it wasn't as intuitive as I would have liked it to be. So are your students finding it useful and they're able to integrate everything?
We just launched it. We have been using another format for our portfolios, and it was horrible. And we launched this in the fall, and I have all of my middle school, which is over 600 students, I think 800 students, that have a Google site set up, and they're starting to upload products. And then I have selective implementation on my elementary campuses, but the teachers, there wasn't a lot of buy-in at first, but then I started showing them how they could use it for themselves and for PBLs, and also how they could even create their own, I guess, online resume, because sometimes you have to get them where they want to feel, you know, that it's beneficial to them first before you can help them see how it's beneficial to kids. And now there's starting to be a little bit more buy-in, but it's a slow process because unfortunately we had such a bad, I guess, result with the first portfolio that we did. There's still a bad taste in everybody's mouth, and that's in the back of their mind. But the kids that use it love the fact that they can personalize it. And the other big thing is that they're so excited that when they leave the district, whether they leave it in 12th grade or they leave it next week, it goes with them. It doesn't stay with the district. And so we have academies in the high schools, and some of the kids submitted their sites as a way, as kind of a I don't know, to make them stand out a little bit more than some of the other kids. And every kid that submitted a site got picked for an academy.
Oh, that's great. I think it's great. I'd never used Google Sites, like I said, in my classroom, but you know, if you can get the kids making them all throughout, that's pretty awesome. I mean, it'd be a great, powerful tool to take with them.
Yeah. And it's interesting because at first they just wanted them to do academic stuff, and I really pushed on my campuses for them to pick things that they were proud of that maybe they did outside of school. And when they started to realize that they could do things outside of school and awards, some of these kids do like competitions and stuff, and they started uploading that information and writing about that information, then the academic stuff they were more willing to do. But when you just told them it was academic, some of them, you know, fought it, screaming and pulling hair and gnashing of teeth.
We're using sites for a 4-year accumulative portfolio in our theology classes, which you know, I know not everybody teaches theology, but we call it the Faithfolio, and it's sort of a supplement, not a supplement, it's a replacement for all final exams in those courses. So it's a lot of reflection. It's really a creative writing and reflection project that they carry with them for the 4 years, and it's kind of a neat growth measurement tool for them. And I mean, you could apply it to any subject area. We just
Absolutely.
happen to do it in theology, where, you know, they're learning about world religions and you know, about themselves and things like that. But it's really kind of a cool tool for that.
Yeah, it seems like a great tool. It's hard now because I'm supposed to train teachers on this stuff, but I'm no longer in the classroom. I think the ideal EdTech TOSA would be, you know, you teach 2 or 3 classes and then you train the other part of the day, but that's not the way they make it. I know that would be a huge headache to do, but it would really help out too.
Well, I'll tell you what, Ryan. I mean, that's what I do. I don't have a class, and it makes the world of difference to be able to not be tied down in a classroom and be able to go in and team teach and be there to assuage fears and really have an open schedule where a teacher could say, hey, I want to do this in class, and then go be there with them. So, I mean, it's something you really, if for not just for anybody, should really consider having a full-time person. I think it moves things forward a lot faster.
Yeah,
I agree.
We're lucky. We now have 3 we have teachers on special assignment for ed tech, which is great. It's just a matter of, and it's new, so maybe that's part of the problem, is the teachers aren't necessarily jumping on board and saying, hey, I want to try this, can you come help me? We're still trying to weave our way in. Like, my plan after winter break is to go sit on campuses and just make myself available, because most of my job is on the computer. I can take a laptop and sit in their staff lounge and say, hey, come by on your prep, come by on recess or whatever, and let's just, I'll show you what we have to offer. I feel like a salesman, which I don't need to, but it's just a matter of I want them to use it.
Definitely.
I agree.
I just threw up a word in the chat there called the synergize, and it's an extension that you add in the domain management, and somebody's not muted. I can hear myself. It's kind of this cool add-on, which is basically just tutorials on how to do anything in Google. I'm going to try and find the link for it. I think it's synergize.org, but it's like, I think it's like $4 a teacher, and then all the kids get it for free or something. And it's just a little add-on that shows you how to do sites, how to do a doc. I mean, you could type in, how do you create a contact group? And it walks you through a tutorial. It's like an overlay. I'll find a link and throw it in there, but it's pretty cool.
Brian, speaking to not having a classroom, I have a couple of teachers on different campuses that I have basically asked if I can kidnap their classes, and they let me do it. I just ask them, what are you covering, and they kind of stay in the background to make sure I don't get the content too screwed up. And then, because especially in secondary, sometimes the content isn't really in my area of expertise. And so I'll go in there and kidnap, not so much kidnap, but maybe hijack a class or whatever.
Yeah, and obviously I've worked with.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love saying
that
we team teach.
We just had Amy join us. She
Ryan.
was asking to join, so Amy, nah, that's okay. Amy just joined us, so she's got a whole group there.
Woohoo! We're having a party.
Well, we are. Unfortunately, this session ends at 11, so that they can do the slam at the end. But where are you guys at? Do you guys have Google Apps for Education in your school? Or are you using them, or where are you guys at?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Ryan. I didn't even know what your guys' topic was, but we couldn't get into anything, so I just started randomly tweeting my favorite people on Twitter. So yeah, we are a GAFE school, but this is our first year using it with students, so we're definitely in the infancy stages, I would say.
Yeah, there's a lot of us in here that are like that. In fact, it sounds like many districts are getting it and not necessarily training.
Yeah. I feel really lucky. I'm taking 11 teachers to the Google Summit that's in Napa next week, and so I'm hoping that kind of builds some knowledge and interest and excitement.
Yeah, that would be nice. And I know there's one in San Diego. Oh no, I'm sorry, that's an iPad Summit.
There's one in Sacramento, I think, coming up soon too.
Okay.
One app, well, an extension, a Chrome extension I've been using personally that I think has a lot of possibilities is the Evernote extension. I haven't actually used it in a classroom environment, but for myself personally, I've actually used it. I've used that to put together an e-portfolio for myself in terms of, because I do instructional design work, I've put together an e-portfolio of my instructional design work, and also keeping track of PD, which might not necessarily have certificates, like this sort of thing. And I found Evernote worked really well, and it's so easy to use. It's evolved so much over the last 2 years. I think there's a lot of possibilities with that, but I haven't really used it in the classroom yet.
Yeah, I don't know. I fell in love with Evernote for a while, and then I fell in love with Google Drive, and I've really started putting everything in Google Drive now. But I've kind of forgotten about Evernote. But I do like Evernote, and I have the extension on my in Chrome. I just have to start using it again.
Right, and I presented at the Georgia Educational Technology Conference, and Dr. Chris Kraft was there. I don't know if y'all know him, but he's like the leading person in Google for Google Education, and he's also a teacher. And he presented the advanced session of Google, and somebody in the audience asked about Evernote and what about Evernote, and he's like, why would you need that if you have Google Drive? That's basically his response.
What about, have you guys had good experience with using Google Drive though when you're offline? Because that was my biggest thing with Evernote, although I don't use it faithfully and I haven't used it in a while, but you can use it when you don't have internet access, where with Google Drive I haven't found any of the workarounds useful for that.
I'm going to default to someone else. You go ahead, because I don't have an answer for that.
I know that you can have, if you've got, for instance, on your iPad or on your Windows laptop, you have the Google Drive app or software installed. You can download certain documents to use locally, but of course, if you've used the Drive stuff across platforms, you'd know that there are limitations with what you can and can't edit or use or display across different platforms. But you can make things available locally, but you have to plan to do that. So it's kind of not a emergency solution. You have to know you're going to be offline and have whatever you want offline already.
Right, right.
Well, I think we're going to go ahead and end this session. I will leave it open. I'm just going to stop the broadcast so you guys can continue talking if you want to. I know that if we go back to the main EdcampHOME website, they're going to start the SLAM. If you've never been part of a SLAM, it's kind of an interesting thing to join. I didn't join it last time on Edcamp, so I might just take a look at it this time. But thank you all for participating. I'm going to go ahead and take us offline now.
Thanks, Ryan.